Imagine trying to explain to someone what the Force is, and perhaps said person never saw Star Wars. How do you begin? You could use the simplest explanation straight from A New Hope with Obi-Wan's famous quote, "The Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, and binds the galaxy together." Are we allowed to say penetrate? I think penetrate might be one of those risky words. That seems pretty straightforward, right? But if you haven't seen the film, then you ask, what's a Jedi? And now we're watching A New Hope. All of a sudden, you've seen Obi-Wan Kenobi pretend to be a monster in the Tatooine desert. He's tricked stormtroopers with mind magic. He's disappeared into vapor before being sliced in half. Darth Vader choked somebody with only a gesture of his hand. And finally, we hear Obi-Wan's disembodied voice telling Luke to use the Force during the attack on the Death Star. At this point, it's pretty obvious that Obi-Wan's explanation is really just the tip of the iceberg, and it really won't cut it as an explanation on what the Force actually is or how it works. We need to dive deeper. Luckily, each installment of Star Wars gave us a more well-rounded understanding of the Force, and I would say that the original trilogy focused heavily on the vague spiritual nature of the Force, while the prequels focused on its scientific aspects in some regard. In Empire, Yoda tells Luke that the Force is his ally, that we are luminous beings and not just some crude matter. It's as if the Force has its own will. He taught Luke that belief and trust in the Force is a must in order to harness one's ability to tap into it. You must feel the Force around you. But how? Well, this is where things start to get a little bit complicated. The original trilogy lets us know that the Force guides us and sort of has a divine will of its own. And if you can quiet yourself and your mind, you can pick up on the will that the Force has. But the way a living being connects to and feels the Force requires something controversial. MIDICHLORIANs. MIDICHLORIANs were so controversial when introduced in The Phantom Menace, but I think it works as a scientific in-universe explanation as to why the Force exists and how someone can even tap into it. All living things have midichlorians in their bodies, and these are microscopic organisms, and this is stuff that most of us know. They are what allows life to exist, giving it energy, just like our own mitochondria. They also have a direct connection to what I call the divine in Star Wars, or the cosmic force. Depending on an individual's concentration of these organisms, you are either force sensitive or not. But no matter what, all life has a symbiotic relationship with midichlorians. And by the way, even though midichlorians are force-sensitive organisms, they don't have any preference towards the light or dark. That's just an interpretation of the Force by the user. Midichlorians are ambivalent on that aspect of the Force. From that small of a perspective, the Force is a non-binary entity. It's just the Force. Sensing ripples in the Force would now make sense knowing that we are all connected. It's like dropping something on top of calm water. Waves pulse out from that central point of the drop. And I imagine that when something monumental happens in the Star Wars galaxy, the midichlorians are deeply affected, giving us a sense of that elusive something, similar to Obi-Wan in the beginning of The Phantom Menace. Knowing now that we are all connected by virtue of midichlorians, and that these organisms communicate to us the will of the Force, I think Obi-Wan's simple explanation finally makes sense and becomes less vague. Now, if we alter what Obi-Wan told Luke, it could now read as follows. Midichlorians allow a Jedi to feel the will of the Force. They constantly communicate with us, guide us, and allow us to tap into the energy of all life, since all life is interconnected. The more midichlorians you possess, the more potential you have in harnessing the Force. And that's it. So obviously this is my complete over-analysis of the Force, but this works for me. Part of me enjoys the vague nature of this energy, but I also love that it can be explained a little more logically now due to how much Star Wars content actually exists. And of course, I understand that some people may scoff at the idea of midichlorians making sense, but to me, it's the missing element in our understanding of this mystical energy. You have to talk about midichlorians to talk about the Force. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed my thoughts on the matter. If you are new here and would like to stay updated on my live streams and latest content, please subscribe and hit the bell notification so you don't miss anything. And other than that, AT Chat is signing off.